Good time of the day, dear colleagues, and today we'll have the next lecture, and it will be about the communication. So first of all, we have to understand that communication lays in the base of all the human beings, and it's one of the main things that is made due to the evolution of the humans. Some scientists say that if we could not communicate such well as we do it right now, we will never be such a developed social. It means that due to the communication, due to the abilities to give knowledges, to receive the knowledges from the previous people, we have ability to do a lot of things. First of all, we have to understand that due to these communication skills, which we'll talk about, you will be able to be more successful, you will be able to be a better communicator, and you'll have more abilities to have people which will help you in the future, which will help you to relax and to do a lot of things. And there is like good scientific works that shows that, for example, a university study, it's not like the thing that gives you knowledges, it's thing that gives you new people, abilities to communicate, that teaches you how to behave and how to be successful. So you have to remember all these things when you will think about the communication. You know that there are a lot of people, and these people have different styles, different types of communication, and they have different types of behavior. And for example, you know that some of people that you meet, you like them more than others ones. And other ones, they are better communicators, but you don't like them so much. There are people that can speak very easily, that can find the way to the heart and to the soul of every person. There are people that can open their soul only for few of them. And it means that there are specific different features of people that lays in the base of communication, but we cannot say that this or that style is better. It means that you have to choose a style of communication depending on the situation. When you will look on this picture, you can see that two people are communicating. And for example, if we look on the person who is on the right chair, the person is opened, the person feels very well. It seems like this person is very confident about himself. Looking on the person, on the guy who is on the left chair with the bird, we can notice that he's, for example, sitting and his back is it's moved back on the chair. It means that he feels uncomfortable. His feet are together. It means that potentially he feel like not very comfortable as the right person. Why are we talking about these features? We are talking about them because the person, from its nature, notice these specific features of humans. It means that communication skills potentially can give you ability to be more successful, to be more interesting to others, and to show that you are, for example, confident about yourself, or that you are shy. There are different conversation styles we were talking about, and for example, there are dominant, interruptive, manipulative, polite, creative, sarcastic, and passive communication styles. What do you know about the dominant communication styles? Dominant communication styles, in the base of it lays the domination in the topics of the conversation, domination in the style of the conversation. These people, they feel very well during the conversation, and as a rule, they rule this conversation type. Interruptive type, in this case, people cannot listen till the end. They all the time are trying to interrupt others. They are trying to put the words inside of this conversation, and most of people don't like this type of communicators, intercommunicators. Manipulative type, in this case, we are talking about the specific manipulation. There are a lot of psychological tricks, a lot of psychological manipulations that typically are used by people. Sometimes they are used consciously, sometimes they are used without the wish of the person, but these people with this manipulative style, they manipulate others people. For example, can you imagine the child and the mother? And if the mother says that, oh, you were not a good boy or good girl today, and your behavior was not very well. So what can you say to me? It means that mother wants to manipulate on this feeling of the child that the child behaved bad. Yeah, the polite style, it means that these people, they are always polite. They have never stopped intercommunicators. They are listening more than talking, and they behave very well. Creative style of communication, it means that these people do something that is not typical. For example, they can laugh very loudly, they can scream, they can do specific things that are not typical or for general population. The sarcastic style, in this case, people prefer to laugh, to make jokes from others. Yeah, and it's very funny to be in such company, but there is a sarcastic intercommunicator, but it's not good when this sarcasm is the main attention is put on you. The passive style, it means when the person, as a rule, don't have topics to tell anybody, when these people are listening more than talking, when they are not caring about a lot of things. There are 6 elements if you're talking about the communication. And what are these specific elements? First of all, it's sender. Sender has its own decision, some specific things that he wants to tell the receiver. Yeah, so the sender has a decision to make the specific message about something. Then there is encoding of the message by the sender. What does it mean? It means that every person have its own ability to verbalize. For example, there is specific word vocabulary, specific ability to show, for example, emotionally your message. Then there is the sending message to the receiver. It means that there is specific process of doing it. It can be made through the different channels, for example, by phone and by the communication eye to eye. It can be over the Skype or due to other specific channels. Then we have the receiver, the person who receives the information, and this receiver decoded. What does it mean, decode? It means that every person has its own features, abilities to understand, its own experience, and due to this feature, the person understands this information. And the last 6th element is the internal response to the message. Every person, every human, everybody who receives any information, we have some specific response. Sometimes we feel positive emotion, sometimes we feel negative emotion, sometimes we are interested, sometimes we feel like we are boring when somebody is telling you something, sometimes we are annoyed or anxious. So I have read that, for example, when we want to tell the person information, any information, in most of the cases of the general intercommunicator, loses nearly more than 60% of the information. What does it mean? It means that You cannot verbalize all the things that you want to do. The receiver cannot understand everything that you want to tell the person. It means that in most of the cases, we don't give the full amount of the information that we wanted to give, and the receiver, as a rule, don't receive this information. Speaking about the communication, we have to understand that there are also some specific features that typically are present in this process. First of all, it's decision. Decision, it means that there are some specific features that lead to that way that we want to communicate. For example, deciding to speak and choosing what thought an individual would like to put forth in the conversation. It means that we decide that, for example, we can tell this person about this information. And for example, in some cases, before writing this lecture, one of the patients I was talking with her, she told, can I talk to you eye to eye? And she came to my room and she locked the door and says that I can tell you everything that you will ask, but I don't want to speak near my relatives. It means that she had the decision to speak with me, and she has chosen the way which she would do it. Encoding. The process in which the speaker attempts to translate his or her thoughts and perceptions into words. It means that, for example, we have specific thoughts. These thoughts are very broad. There are a lot of specific features inside of these thoughts. Plus, we include the imagination when we want to give some information to people. But when we try to encode, when we try to verbalize, to speak about something, as a rule, as I told previously, it's very difficult to tell all the things about something, and we have difficulties doing it, sending the articulation of the words the individual would like to convey. Some days ago, I have met one girl. She were wearing brackets. She has problems with the teeth, and when she were talking, I understood near 20% of her words, and she were talking very loudly. It's caused by her that she's not confident about herself. It means that in some cases, it also can be the problem. The message sends travels to the receiver via channel, for example, sound, waves, sign, language, video, recording, or other things. Channel is also very interesting and very useful part of sending of information. Decoding, a process in which the listener attempts to understand and interpret what the speaker has encoded in his or her message. My own experience shows that in some cases, people decode the information wrong way. As we were talking, it is caused by a specific previous experience. It is caused by specific ways of the person behaved and had, for example, has previous experiences of doing these communications. Internal response, as we told, it's like angry, upset, relieved, and other emotional reactions. So also there are features that in most of the cases decrease our ability, make problematically to speak. For example, they are factors, noise, it's factors that are negatively influence the effectiveness of the communication and the interpretation of the conversations. There are 4 common sources of the noise. First of all, it's the personality. The sender's past experience provides a frame of reference for sending the message, such as beliefs, attitudes, and personality. These factors may vary from the person to person and can distort the message. So personality, it's one of the main noises. Lack of skills. There are people that feel like a fish in the water during the conversation. There are people that feel very uncomfortable when they are trying to communicate with somebody. And if we are talking about such people, as a rule, we are talking about these skills. These skills can be taught, so you can teach these skills every day when you will practice them in the real life situations. External factors. External factors, for example, I gave you this example about the girl that told that come to your room, I will tell you everything, but I don't want to talk near my relatives. It means that she has the external factor that does not give her ability to communicate with me. In some cases, when you're talking over the phone with your relatives that are abroad, you have also problems with this connection, for example, bad internet connection, or for example, the noise when you are talking in the street and, for example, the cars are moving, or your group mates make noise, and they are these factors that are also external. And we have also, like the noise, it's receiver's past experience. The receiver's past experience form a frame of reference for receiving and interpreting the message, which can affect the decoding process. Speaking about the communication, there are two main types. It's verbal and nonverbal communication. What is nonverbal communication? We know that girls like due to their ears, but most of people, they interpret information due to nonverbal things. And nonverbal skills, it's specific skills. For example, you know that in some cases people can show the information that is received another way. What does it mean? It means that in some cases, some people say that I'm so glad to see you. I'm so happy that you came today on my birthday. Yeah, and this person is trying to show the smile, but you can see that this smile is not natural. Speaking about the neuroscience of ability to read the emotions, neuroscientists say that we can receive this information very easily because the children, for example, they are from the birth, they are very natural, and due to these abilities to read the nonverbal things like gestures, like mimics, and other things like voice, these things gave ability to people survive and to be successful in the life. It means that these nonverbal communication skills, they are also very useful. So there are three types of nonverbal communication. It's kinetics, it's proxemics, and it's paralanguage. Kinetics, it's body language, shows people feelings without communicating them verbally. Maybe we will not watch the video. Physical appearance, in each culture, stereotypes developed that are based on the physical appearance. So in some cultures, it's normal when boys wear skirts. In other cultures, it's not normal. In some cultures, it's appropriate behavior when you wear the hat in the building. In some, it's not normal, so you have to remember about all these things, about these specific features. Slumped posture is a sign of feeling low, fatigued, and interior warriors, and upright posture reflects confidence, openness, and energy. Also, the way the people walk communicate how they feel. When people are sad, they shuffle along slowly with their hands in their pockets, whereas is you're happy or walk energized. Gesture. Many people communicate with gestures and various body movements. These allow for a person to show different feelings such as anger, sadness, and other emotional reactions. Touching is also one of the common forms of the body language. It's sometimes used to express the affection, to calm, or to interrupt. Handshakes, hugs, kisses, pats on back, and others. There are people that more often like to touch people. There are ones that don't like to do it. In some cases, people like when they are touched by others. In some cases, people feel very uncomfortable when somebody is touching them. Speaking about the first nonverbal communication, we have to say that the facial expression is one of the most expressive body parts. And for example, if to tell you about myself, I wear glasses only because I don't see eyes of people. I feel very uncomfortable when I don't see eyes during the communication, and I don't feel the person in this case. So it helped me to understand the people. So eye contact shows the interest and shows that you are listening. Looping looks into another person's eyes convey either romantic notions or conflict or anger. Proxemics. Proxemics is the study of how we communicate by the way we use the space, the distance between you and others, how you arrange furniture and other objects and social interactions, and how you respond to the invasion of territory. What does it mean? It means that there are specific features of people distance that they are communicating. For example, it is known that people who live in the villages, in the small towns, they have a normal communicating distance that is more wide than people who live in the big cities. What does it mean? It means that on this space, for example, in the village, people see others more rarely than in the big cities. For example, if you imagine the Kiev with the metro, where there are a lot of people, you are standing near them all the time. And if you will imagine the village where you can see the person, for example, 100 meters from you, and you will say by your hand, hello. Yeah, it means that it have specific influence on these communication things. Also, different people, they have different feeling of their own distance. There are specific distances that are typically responsible for normal communication. There are social distance, there is intimate distance, and these distances, they are different and they are used in different types of situations. For example, if you are speaking with the person whom you don't know, for example, somebody on the street came to you and asked, for example, how to go to the street, for example, Ruska Street. Yeah. And you can imagine another scene when your lovely person came to you and says that how he missed you. These two types of communication, they will be different, yeah, and they will be made on the different distances. Paralanguage. Paralanguage, it refers to all vocal components of speech, reflects what a person is feeling. Pitch, the highness or lowness of the sound of your voice, resonance, the richness or thiness of your voice, the articulation, the way you make the words, the tempo. In this case, we're talking about the speed at which the words are spoken, the volume, the loudness of softness with which you speak, the rhythm, the empathy placed on different words, and the cadence of the speech. So all these paralanguage, since they also give a lot of information to the person. It is known, for example, if the person is anxious, in this case, the speed of the language will be bigger. If the person is also anxious, in this case, the person will speak more loudly. If the person is shy, the volume will be lower. Yeah, the cadence, the rhythm, all these features give you a lot of interesting informations. Looking on this slide, we can understand that due to the verbal language, paralanguage, and body language, we receive a lot of information. The statistics say that, for example, words give us nearly 7% of all the information. Paralanguage, 38, and body language, 55. So listening. Listening is also one of the skills that help people to be more effective during the communication, to have better relations with people, and it helps people to be closer, in timely closer to the intercommunicators. There are ancient books in which it is written that you have to listen more than to hear. It means that in some cases people, they are listening, but they are not hearing you. So there are specific elements that involved in the effective communication. First of all, it's listening. So you have to listen the intercommunicator, and you have to be attentive, because, for example, people feel uncomfortable when, for example, they say that I told you 2 minutes ago about this and you didn't listen to me, and you feel uncomfortable, and the person who were talking was feeling uncomfortable attending. It's also one of the useful skills of the communication. And the responding. Yeah, if somebody is asking you, or if we are talking about something, you have to give some specific response. It can be verbal, it can be non-verbal. If somebody is telling the joke, you have to laugh. Yeah, if somebody is telling you sad things, you have to show that you are sad. If you even are not sad, so there are also elements that are useful during the communication. There were video, but we will not watch it. So listening, attending, and responding, they are also key elements of listener. If you want to be more effective during the communication, you have to keep the eye contact, or maintain the eye contact. If there is no eye contact, in this case, the person intercommunicator feels like you are shy, you are not trusting, you tell wrong things, and there are a lot of other things. Avoid word prejudice. Yesterday, I were talking with my friend. She is a judge, and she were telling that during the when she wanted to start working in one of the companies, she had the interview. During this interview, the person in the interviewer were trying to start to asking the question, and he didn't finish, and she started to answer, and he stopped her and said, please, you have to listen the question till the end because you don't know what I want to ask you and you answer in the wrong way. So you have to avoid the word prejudice because in this case, you will not be so effective. In some cases, if you want to be successful, you have to use minimal encourages like, oh, yeah. So it helps the person to understand that you are listening. Paraphrase what was said to ensure the understanding. It is a good trick if you're working with people and if the information that is received from people is useful to you. Why I am talking that it is useful for you? Because, for example, you are working, you will work like a doctor, and if the patient is telling you something that was told with specific aim, it means you have to ask if you understood the person very well. In psychiatry, for example, where I'm working, it's very useful because in some cases, the patient wanted to tell you different things that you understood. So as a rule, we psychiatrists ask the patient, is it correct that you told that you sleep less than 6 hours a day, you wake up during the night 5 times, and you have bad nightmares, and in the morning you feel very tired and you want to sleep, for example. So it's paraphrases. You have to ask the questions to improve the clarity of the statements. There are specific questions that could be asked to understand better the information. Use empathy to reflect and share the feelings. People are social creatures and they like when they are understood by others, when other people show the empathy and they reflect the emotional response on some specific things in their life. So if you're talking with your friend and, for example, if your friend tells that let's go to the tea on Saturday at 8, and then you were talking about other things, then in the end of that conversation, you have to summarize. It means that, okay, see you on Saturday at 8 on coffee on this bar, on that bar. There are specific articles, specific researches that show that there are specific skills that could be improved by the training. We can improve our listening skills, for example, when we are better listeners to friends or family, better employees, better students, better in many areas of our life. The key to be of an understanding communicator is not so much the word of wisdom that come out of your mouth, but how well you listen to the words of wisdom that come out from the mouth of others. So it means that you have to improve your abilities of communication. During the communication, we often have the conflict situations, and these conflicts, as a rule, they lead to the problems with working, problems with doing a lot of things, and there are specific situations that lead to the conflicts. There is specific features like value conflict when a person has conflicting values within his own value system. It means, for example, in our medical university, due to war, we don't have enough ability to work. It means that we don't have the foreign students right now, and it means that near 40% of the pedagogical work decreased. Yeah, it means that we have to work less and to have less money for our work. In some people's value, it is that it's not normal to work less and to have less money. Yeah, and it's one of the type of conflicts. Ego conflict is based on win-lose mentality. Ego conflict is inside of the soul of the person. For example, some people think that they have to be beautiful, well dressed, and other things, and when they are not so, they feel conflicts. There are a lot of conflict management styles. It's withdrawal when conflict seems overwhelming. The first reaction is usually avoidance. The surrender to have habitually give into a situation or problem is also constructed as a negative conflict management style. Hostile aggression is often used as a form of initiation to manipulate others into submissive agreement. Persuasion, an attempt to alter another person's attitude or behavior, and dialogue, a verbal exchange of opinions, attitudes, facts, and perceptions that open the doors to the great understanding of the nature of the problem. It means that in some situations you have to use a dialogue conflict style, management style. In some, you have to behave like a surrender or withdraw from the conflict. In some, you have to be more aggressive. In some, you have to be less aggressive. So one of the main skills of making resolving of the conflicts is to do from negative to positive things. In some cases, the joke can help to resolve the conflict. You have to speak with the precision and directness. Select the word that accurately describes your thoughts and feelings. How are you today? Or I'm okay. Yeah, it's enhance your vocabulary. A small vocabulary decreases the ability to express yourself, whereas the greater number of words to choose from that provides you with the greater flexibility to say what you want to say. Sound more professionally, classify, educated. For doctors, it's very useful to know a lot of words, a lot of terms, and to be a good intercommunicator and to show all these abilities. Use language appropriate to your listening audience. When we prepare the lectures, we have to know what type of auditory will be. For example, if I'm preparing the lecture about the post-traumatic stress disorder on the conference where there will be the doctors of general medicine, internal medicine, I will prepare one way this lecture. If I will prepare the lecture for psychiatrists, it will be another type of lecture for practical psychiatrists. If it will be the lecture for scientists in the psychiatric field, it will be different type of previous two ones. It means that we have to use the appropriate type of preparing the information. Attack issue, not people. Avoid character assassination. Attacking people clouds the issue and makes it harder. It's not impossible to resolve the issues. It's not good for effective arguments. You have to avoid putting others on the defensive. Placing the responsibility of understanding on yourself rather than blaming others minimizes defensiveness. You have to use such things. For example, I perceive. Avoid asking someone to pass on your thoughts or feelings to a third party. The most effective communication involves talking with someone face to face. It's effective on the workplace. For example, if you're a doctor and you're working with people, you have to remember that in some cases, people will not give you the all amount of the information because you feel shy. For example, if you're sitting in the room with other patients, or if the door to your room is opened and in the hall there are a lot of people that can listen what your patient is talking to you, potentially this patient will not open all the information. Avoid information overload. Attention span is limited as it is amount of information that can be received and processed. So don't speak too much, don't give too much information. And you have to remember one main thing, that you have to keep in your brain that time is thing that could not be bought, could not be taken from anywhere. Don't waste the time of people that you are talking to you. Validate your assumptions. Confirm what you think to be true with those that have given you this impression. Resolve problems when they arise. Don't think what you will do if something bad will happen. So don't start to resolve conflicts if there is no conflict. If you feel there is misunderstanding, there probably is. Try to deal with the issues as they surface by talking it out with those involved. You can use the drama-free zones, zones where you can just relax to communicate about different things, but not to conflict. For example, if you're living with a lot of parents, relatives, your brothers, sisters, you can make the deal that, for example, on the kitchen, you never make the conflicts and you never make the communications about discussable questions. You can talk about the weather, about something interesting, but not about things that can lead to the conflict. Yesterday, I also talked with one girl, and she told that my friend called to me, and we were talking about some specific things. And this girl, the friend, all the time was encouraging, "Don't worry, everything will be okay." And this girl told that I didn't tell him that I feel bad, that I believe that something will not be okay, and it were looking like the person were trying to relax me, and it was not acceptable for this lady. You have remember that if you want to be effective in communication, you have to use these skills regularly. They must be practiced and they must be done in most of the time. Now we'll talk a little about the communication channels. We were talking about them, but still you have to understand that there is verbal and non-verbal communication channel. Speaking about the verbal one, we can say that it is oral and written. Oral is speaking and listening, and written is writing and reading. Non-verbal, it's facial expression, it's gestures, it's body language, it's proximity, it's touches, it's personal experience, appearance, and their silence. Verbal communication or speaking, face-to-face and video conference and phone. There are the main types of communication. There is investigation that show that different types of communication, they have different times that is used to, and they have different types of success. For example, if you are speaking face-to-face, the average time is 4 minutes. If you're talking about the video, it's 5 minutes, and over the phone, it's 6 minutes. It means that the success of understanding, the success of using the information is the most easiest if we are talking face to face, and the most difficult if we are talking about the phone. Yeah, it means that you have to remember about it. Verbal communication, listening. You have advantages of it and you have disadvantages. If you are listening, you have specific advantages of it. So you can receive new information, you can make new friends, and you can do a lot of interesting things. Speaking about the written communication, there are also some types of it. For example, there is email, there is chat, there is social media communication. It's interesting for me because, like, I don't think that I'm the dinosaur of nowadays, but when I look how people communicate, it's very interesting for me. For example, I have like children. For example, my elder daughter is 16, and she feels more comfortable when she's writing to her friends. I cannot understand it because, as for me, it's more easily to take the phones, to call, and to ask everything that you want to ask. As for me, the writing needs more time, and you are not so like successful in understanding things which are made, but still people prefer like written communication. Also, what is interesting for me is that, for example, when I look on my emails, sometimes I feel like I don't want to start reading them because I can have more than 50 mails in one day. And can you imagine how many times do I need to read them? So sometimes I ignore them for weeks because it's also like one of the type of communication. There is specific structures of the communication. For example, the business letter format has, for example, specific structure. For example, it's return address, it's date of letter, it's inside address, it's situation, it's body letter, it's closing, and space for signature. It's like typical things. So you also have to remember about these things. We were talking about the nonverbal communication, and can you imagine that you are talking with somebody? It doesn't matter, patient, friend, relative, your loved one, and different type of nonverbal communications can give you a lot of different information. For example, yesterday I saw the patient. She was a lady who is 17 years old. She's the first time in the psychiatric hospital. She came to the ambulatory consultation. The consultation was caused by the thing that she were inadequate in her behavior. She didn't sleep. She was talking things that are not like adequate. She were moving too much. She were speaking with people on the street, and because of it, her relatives took her to the psychiatrist. What is interesting, why am I talking about her? I'm talking about her because, for example, I'm working not 2, not 5, and not even 10 years in the psychiatry, and I have never seen the girl who is 17 years old and who behaved such specific way. She had a very specific type of behavior. She were sucking her finger all the time. She were making lips like a small child. She were behaving like my smallest child, who is 2 and 5 years old. In psychiatry, we give specific term to such state is puerillism, when the person behaves like a child. And this type of behavior in some cases can give us ability to put the correct diagnosis. So this puerillism, as a rule, we meet it in two cases. It's hysterical disorder, or now they have named dissociative disorder, and in some cases they can be met in people who have catatonic syndrome. As a rule, it is seen in patients who suffer from schizophrenia. So we have to differentiate in the case of the lady. Does she have schizophrenia potentially, or maybe she has the hysterical disorder? Facial expression is among the most universal forms of body language. The expressions used to convey the fear, the anger, the sadness, and the happiness. They are similar throughout the world. Speaking about the nonverbal communication, there are interesting studies that show that the face can be divided into few levels. Its eyes, its lips, its nose, and eyebrows. Depending on these levels, we can receive specific information. Yeah, you can see that this child have a lot of different types of emotions. Yeah, and they show a lot of them. There is a good serial, Lie to Me, and for me it's interesting. And inside of this serial, it's the guy who is psychologist. He is trying to read the faces of people, and on this understanding of faces of people, he gives interesting conclusions. Nonverbal communication is also different gestures. If we look on this lady, yeah, we can see that if the hands are inside of the figure, yeah, it means that this girl feels like not very comfortable. Yeah, stiff hands, they discourage. If you want to be more successful, you have to stay in the box. If you see the just hands, it means if the person is moving the hands all the time, it means that the person loses control. Yeah, on these slides, you can see that people confident about things that they are doing. Gestures can be some of the most direct and obvious signals. Some gestures may be cultural. Yeah, nonverbal communication. You can see that these persons show that everything is okay. This guy shows that potentially that you have to kill somebody. Nonverbal communication. Yeah, you know that in some cases, if you will cross the fingers, in this case, it means that you are lying. Yeah, it means that you have to stop and don't do it. Don't come closer. I feel okay. Thank you. Come to me. Yeah, every boy would like the girl will make such a gesture. It's specific gesture that show that person like to make orders. As a rule, it's typical for people who sit on the highest level of the social ladder. In some cases, I make such gesture to take the attention of people. If I want to stop, for example, my small child, I'll do, please come here. So it means that she pay attention of me. It means that you will not receive this. If you will look on these people, you will notice that they have different gestures, and these different gestures give you different body information. Body posture is also thing that can give you a lot of information. Yesterday, I saw one of the patients. She's also a young lady, and she were consulted in the private psychiatrist. And what is interesting, when she were in the private psychiatrist, she didn't talk with the psychiatrist. She was just sitting and thinking um, about her mental state. And the psychiatrist thought that she is depressed and gave her antidepressants. I thought that it was caused by the thing that by the gesture, how she was sitting. So body position can give you a lot of information. So the way how do we walk, how do we behave, how do we sit and stand is also the way of understanding what is this person or who is this person. Yeah. If the hands are putting on the breast this way, it means that the person is closed and does not want to communicate with you. You can see it on the first slide. Yeah. Expectancy and frustration. Yeah, it means if you will look on these people, the guy is looking for or waiting for something. He's expecting that the evening will continue in other way. Yeah, and it's frustration. It means that the lady potentially told that today I have a headache, and you will go home and you will not get everything that you want. Evaluation via suspicion. Yeah, it means that you can notice it on these gestures, self-control and nervousness. When people are touching, for example, the chair down and like keeping it by their hands, it means that they are trying to control their emotions. When the person is nervous, as a rule, the person is moving, touching, doing a lot of things. Readiness, we as boredom. Yeah, readiness, it means that the person wants to start doing something. Boredom, it's not interesting. Confidence, yes, insecurity. Due to all these gestures, we made such conclusions. Yeah, you can watch on these slides and understand that it's very difficult. So on this slide, you can see things that we were talking about. There are few spaces. There is intimate space, personal space, social space, and public space. On the public space, we speak with people that are not known. On the social space, we interact in the social way. The personal space, as a rule, we are speaking with only close friends, with close people, and we don't like when somebody is standing on this personal space. And intimate space, it's very close. As a rule, we can interact on this space only with extremely close people, for example, with our loved ones, with our children, but not with like general population. So in some cases, looking on the person, you can also understand who is this person. Yeah, if you look on the nails of such a person, you will understand that this person is working with dirty scenes, and potentially this person is doing dirty work. The way how people smoke also can give you a lot of information about this person. Okay, guys. So the time of our lecture is ending, and thank you for listening, and have a great day. Good luck.